says we're hot. Okay. It is now 1:32. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Rockdale Planning and Zoning meeting of Tuesday, January 7, 2025. Could I have a roll call, please?
Chair Williams.
Here.
Vice Chair Ratliff. Here. Commissioner Miles. Commissioner Willie.
Here.
Commissioner Barcheck.
Here.
Commissioner Slobod.
Here.
Council Liaison Starnes.
So we have a quorum. I'm going to start with a Pledge of Allegiance. Who's going to do the invocation? Anyway. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing.
He's making copies.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just come together, Lord. We pray for your you're leading us through this meeting today, Lord, as we present business, Lord, to the City Council. Lord, we just give you all the thanks, the honor, and glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right, citizens' communications. I'm going to go ahead and start with... That's public hearing. So we start with the public hearing. Our item on the agenda goes with the item on the agenda, correct?
That's right.
All right. Who is Lee Rogers?
That's me.
Yeah, this is going to get tricky here. Do we have a mobile mic, or are we just going to wing it?
Well, I think I'm a little early. Maybe I put it in the wrong place. I wanted to speak about one of the proposals on the zoning change. One of the zoning changes is the reason.
So you do your presentations first, and then when it gets to public hearing, you open the floor for citizen comments.
Yeah. We'll get you. Well, yeah, you're right. We'll get to you in a minute. In fact, that's what I can do with all of them right at this point. Just wait until we get to the public hearing part. We'll get there. Trust me.
Sorry, it's the first time I've ever done this.
Hey, it feels like my first time too, but you know what? It's the very first time for 2025. Okay? Well, if you don't know the history of this, we're really morphing. We used to rarely get any public input at our meetings and stuff, but the world is changing and we're trying to catch up. So we had a presentation then regarding to give. Leslie, if you would come forward, please. No, John doesn't have your back. He didn't come.
Is this good enough?
Let's go front.
Thanks, Tim.
So in recognition for your dedication service to the City of Rockdale, to the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'd like to present this plaque to you. Thank you very, very much. Congratulations. Thank you.
John said he couldn't make it today.
Okay.
All right, then receive a presentation from Chair Williams on the City Council meeting. And you know what? You ought to take this because you did most of this. Well, it's conduct a public hearing on the rezone request for 629 West Cameron, and then a public hearing that they had, and this all regards our stuff. Conduct a public hearing on the creation of a public district PID for the development of the public ridge subdivision. Conduct a public hearing on the creation of a tax increment reinvestment zone, TERS. Number 3. And then under ordinances, consider taking a necessary action on the first reading of an ordinance amending zoning of 629 West Cameron. Go ahead.
So that is the first reading for Joe Cortez's property. For all that are aware, he's the next upcoming on the home program, along with Mr. Martinez. The city's potentially going to do a lot swap with Mr. Cortez. He expressed interest of getting off the highway. Council also expressed interest of getting him off the highway. So we have moved forward. It's looking promising. We should be hearing back this week if that will move forward officially or not.
So there wasn't an issue with the program?
So far, there has not been. It's been all green flags. And so we've been told we're hoping to hear back this week on the final. We've submitted everything that we needed, the appraisal. And so the first reading of the zoning has gone through. Maybe the second reading will be next month.
So the purpose for that item on the last agenda was if we couldn't do the land swap and he had to remain where he was, we would be demolishing his house and building a new home there. It had to be rezoned properly for him to get a building permit to put the home there. So if that land swap doesn't go through, they'll have the second reading next Monday. Hopefully we'll hear by then on the land swap and we won't have to move forward with that zoning.
Yeah, and to condense what we were doing, they had the public hearing, just like we had to do, and they went in and they approved, council approved that, right?
The first reading. And so it has to be approved by 2 readings. And so we're hoping to hear back before then, because this is just a secondary measure in case that lot swap cannot happen, that we don't delay him any further.
And the same goes for the public improvement utility district.
So that is for Republic Ridge. So long story short on that, those are financing mechanisms for Republic Ridge for them to do their development. They're receiving their approvals. And now you will begin to see plats come back when they phase that out of, it should only be 2 phases.
And the tax increment reinvestment zone.
That's another one. That is another financing mechanism. As you saw Cornerstone, it's very similar with Republic Ridge.
And that was pretty much a summary of our action with the last city council meeting. Yay. Okay, so we're gonna go to
That
item
was the
number
meeting
5, the
before
public hearing. We're gonna conduct a public hearing on a rezone request for property located at 815 Houston to change the zoning from A zoning classification to M1 zoning classification. This is a public hearing. The start time for a public hearing on the rezone request starts at 1:40. Is there anyone here that wanted to speak on this item? Anyone here that wants to speak on the rezoning request for property located at 815 Houston? Anyone here wanting to speak on the rezoning request for property located at 815 Houston? Public hearing on this item was started at 1:40, it closes now at 1:41. B, conduct a public hearing on a rezone request for property located at 915 San Gabriel to change the zoning from M1 zoning classification to R3 PUD zoning classification. Is there anyone here that wants to speak on rezone request for property located at 915 San Gabriel? That was
Doug, I'd
you.
like to speak. This is this one.
Hang on.
Like, give the commissioners information as well.
For the record, your name is?
Mario Casares, the Executive Director, Rockdale Housing Authority.
Thank you, Mario. Oh, did I say it starts at 1:42? Public hearing starts now at 1:42.
Okay, Chairman, my name is Mario Casares, Rockdale Housing Authority. We're here to request the change in at 915 San Gabriel. We're asking for 5 requirements when you change it to R3 zoning. For the minimum size of unit to be 400 square feet, 1 parking space per unit for each unit, We're asking for driveways to be smaller to make this happen. We're also asking for no curbs, required driveways, and landscaping to be 50% less than what the city requires. We're asking this to help us with our budget. This is affordable housing. What we're trying to do here is provide affordable housing for 55 and over senior citizens. So we won't have the possibility of families of wear and tear. And we're asking to start on 36 units. And once we get those filled, we will move on to do a total of 76 units is the plan.
Was this part of a grant program you talked about earlier?
We, not part of the grant, but we did apply for 2 grants, and we're waiting for one, and we're waiting for the GLOW grant in March as well.
Okay.
This is a USDA loan that we applied for,
Okay.
But this is for that overall project.
for the overall project, yes, sir.
Okay.
So is it possible that we will not get the grant? I mean, will this move forward without the grant?
I have my architect can answer some of those questions too. Bill, you want to step up? But yes, I'll let Bill explain. This is Bill Tamaji, the architect.
Say his name again, please.
Bill, you want to state your name?
It's Bill Tamaja. We're applying for a 538 USDA loan, which is for elderly housing, and we're building at first we're going to build 36 units, and once those are filled, we'll build another 40 units. So the project is a one-story project, and the houses are going to look, the duplexes are going to look like houses. So it's basically would fit it in with the neighborhood. Any questions?
Photo that we have in our package, is it available on the computer?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
I don't think so.
And of course, this is just a,
Rendering.
yes. Okay.
This is the picture I got, Bill. This one here.
Yeah. This is a rendering of the project. I think y'all have this in your package.
Yes.
So, when you're passing one around, so everybody can see it.
So this is in a later agenda item where we were considering for action recommendation.
It's really just supposed to be hearing, right?
The project is going to be heavily landscaped so that from the street you'll mainly see trees. So it's more like we're putting in a boulevard between the houses.
Okay. We'll get into that when we get into the action item part of it. Right now, it's just public hearing, you're saying why you need it, basically.
Okay.
We'll get back to you is what I'm saying.
Okay. And other citizens can have their word as well.
Well, at this time, I'm really just supposed to hear if people are yay or nay, basically.
Okay.
Well, if you're for it or against it, the idea of it is, we're here to hear y'all. We're really not supposed to grill y'all at this point. When we get to the action item, then we can get more involved. Right now, it's a public hearing. We hear what the public says, like, I don't like the idea, I do like the idea. Oh, yeah. So,
Can we speak now?
There's people for it, it's a good time to speak.
Anybody that wants to get up to the podium?
Go ahead. My name,
Is that their project is adjacent to my property, around 700 feet of property line.
you'll have your chance to talk to us here in just a minute. Just state your name, please.
my name is Carolyn Cooper, and I am the director of the Rockdale Senior Citizen Center. And these duplexes will be right down from the senior center. And if you don't know, there are people out there that is needing housing, low-income, affordable housing. Not like Capstone or whatever, Cornerstone. They can't afford those. I get calls on a daily basis asking for places to stay. Macaulay Oaks is full, Cordova is full, and then Hunter Chase is not affordable for them. Now, we're talking people 55 and older that is looking for places to stay here in Rockdale, Texas. And I know there's other towns that have affordable housing and more apartments around, but we do not, and we need these apartments here in Rockdale.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else want to speak on 915 San Gabriel?
I do. My name is Amy Granados. I'm the manager of Cordova. I see people that come in daily on the front line from, they may get they get one income. They get their Social Security check. They've worked all their lives, and some get $714 a month, some get $943, some get $1036, and they still cannot find somewhere to rent. These people are living in their vehicles, showering at truck stops. They are it went on the cold nights coming up. They maybe get a room at a Roach motel because they have to survive. Now they have money for their, to eat and stuff, but they don't have money for rent. They don't have money to be able to pay electricity. And luckily, if they were able to get into Cordova, we're income basis, and we also pay their water bill where they have a clean, safe space to live. So some part of homelessness is caused by they don't have anywhere to go. They have money, they just don't have enough money to live somewhere. So I'm definitely for it because once you start thinking of your parents and people like that who've worked their whole life and they only get that certain amount and can't do anything with it to try to live, in a clean space or anything like that. So, yes.
Hello, my name is Linda Mack Thompson, and I've lived here I grew up here in Rockdale, and my parents were part of the community doing things and everything else. Then when I moved back here, I became part of the community. I work for the Housing Authority. I'm on the Housing Board. I live in Cordova Apartments. And right now, we don't have any vacancies. So what we're trying to do now is to get something built so we can give other people a place to stay. I know we can't accommodate everybody. So just what we can do would help out a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there a Richard Henderson?
My name is Richard Henderson. I'm retired military. I've been here 22 years or more, but 22 years of prison because I retired. And every day we look at the news and we see homeless people. We see people that, like the lady mentioned about on Social Security, making a choice between whether I'm going to eat or get this medication. And then also fall on the line of whether or not I'm going to pay my rent or have the money to pay my rent and take this medication. The need is there. I mean, we all know it. We see it every day, okay? What we're trying to do, and the reason why I'm standing here today, is to reemphasize the point that we need to help these elderly people as well as everybody else. And a lot of elderly people are being overlooked. We have all kind of food banks, this and that, the whole 9 yards, but you don't really have an organization that provide, well, we do have an organization called HUD, that provide low income, for these people. A lot of us was blessed with good jobs, able to save money, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody's not in that boat. And we understand that, them the choices we made in life. But here's the latter part of life, and here we are paying for things that we never thought of. And one good example I want to bring out, then I'm going to move on. I mean, I started joining Social Security, and they told me that if I didn't take Medicare, that I'd lose my TRICARE for life from the military. But when I left the military 22 years ago, they told me I would never have to pay health insurance no more. But I'm paying $190 a month for Social Security coming out of my Social Security check. I had no idea in my mind that was going to happen. What is happening? And it's going to go up this month. My point is, more than anything, is the ones that are over 55 is what we're looking at here more than anything. Low income, to try to help folks get through life, to try to make their life better, you know, and get them out of these substandard housing that they have and not being able to pay their light bill, they don't pay a water bill here, but their light bill or whatever. Try to help folks, okay?
Mr. Henderson?
Yes, sir.
What is your proximity to the San Gabriel we're trying to build? How close are you?
How many?
How close are you to our property?
I'm at 733 St. Gabriel. So I'm really 2 blocks away. Okay, and there's a lot of substandard houses around there that every 3 or 4 months somebody will move in it, and they're moving out because they can't afford it. So I've been watching this for 22 years. People in and out because you don't have no stable living condition. And, you know, and if the committee decide and rezone it, it will help out a lot. It would also improve the committee. Improve the community and the city of Rockdale. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your service.
Amy Granados, did I?
That was me.
I forgot to scratch you off.
Oh, yes, sir.
Deja vu, I've heard that name.
Yes, sir.
That brings us to Shannon Carnegie.
Good afternoon. I'm on the Rockdale Housing Board as the vice chair, and I'm also for this project. I don't know how many of you know how things were at the Housing Authority before Mario and Amy took over. However, things have made a drastic change at this property, so I strongly believe, as a citizen and as a realtor, that this project will be better for the east side. It will be very well taken care of. On the board, we have come up with and established pretty strict guidelines for our property, and Mario and Amy adhere to those to a T. I believe that it will help the east side and the neighboring senior center, as well as other residents within the area. So I do hope that y'all will let them move forward with this project.
Thank you, ma'am. Lee Rogers.
Hello, my name is Lee Rogers, and I'm the property owner of 217 Laura Street, which is the property adjacent to the property that they're requesting the rezoning for. My property runs basically the whole west side of the property there. So just from what I've heard so far, at this point I would say I'm in favor of going ahead with the rezoning and the project as it's been presented. I would like to find out more information and hopefully be able to work with you guys in the future. So, but at this time, I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, sir. One last time, that concludes all the people on my list. One last time, anyone want to speak about property located at 915 San Gabriel? With a lack of action, I close the hearing at 1:56. Action item, public hearing C. Conduct a public hearing on a rezone request for property located at 900 or in the 900 block of San Gabriel property, ID 2053083 to change the zoning from C1 zoning classification to R3. And I'm go ahead and start the public hearing at 1:57. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Anyone wish to speak on a rezone in the 900 block of San Gabriel? Anyone want to speak on rezone in the 900 block of San Gabriel.
Yes, sir. Because I was under the understanding that 15 is basically on the right side, and 900 is that area going straight up and down. It's the same property, but it's two different locations. It's on the same property, but it's zoned. There's only two different locations. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I mean, but that's my understanding because it should be as one instead of two separate. Huh?
It's two addresses, same property.
Yes, that's the same place, two addresses. So the comments that you got before for 915 also apply for 900.
Basically. But
Pretty much. So, I mean,
we got them broken out separately. So
yes,
we
sir.
go within separate.
I'm just saying, I just want to bring out that point. That was my understanding behind it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to add, when I was speaking, we also, Amy, Amy Granados. We have rules and regulations for some of the neighbors that are concerned as well, as far as we background check all of our tenants. So sexual assault of any kind is not allowed at the property. Any meth charge is not allowed at the property. And we do a thorough background check on all the tenants that move into HUD government housing. So if that will give you a little peace of mind as well, to make it a little bit easier on you. So.
Any further comments? I'm going to close the hearing at 1:59. D, conduct a public hearing regarding a potential zoning ordinance amendment regarding chapter 14 zoning, section 14.20, regarding 14.02.055, subset D, accessory structures. I'm going to start the meeting, or the hearing at 2 o'clock. Who are you, sir?
Well, I'm just here to speak. This is the first time you guys are seeing this. State law requires any zoning ordinance amendment to have a public hearing. And so this is a public hearing for anyone that wants to speak on a potential amendment for the accessory structure ordinance, or they may speak on the action item, their choice. Okay. So preliminary discussion before we dig down in the teeth of the ordinance. The goal of this amendment is to lessen our grip on accessory structures. Right now, we are very strict compared to other communities, and I will get into that when we get to that action item. So that's, it's less of an ordinance that is currently existing, but still providing a similar goal that was trying to be obtained in the original ordinance.
So it addresses accessory structures regulations.
Any other comments regarding this item? I'm going to
You can
close the
speak on the
hearing
action
at
item if you want to have discussion.
2:01. Action items, review and approve the minutes from the meeting on December 3rd, 2024. We have a motion to approve. Second. We have a motion and a second. Those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion made and seconded that the minutes be approved. Action item B, receive the monthly code enforcement report.
Okay, so for your December report, there has been a total of 13 trash and debris cases, 9 high grass cases, and 3 other cases. And then the breakdown of the fiscal is 17 of those cases have been completed, 3 are in court because they have not completed them as of yet and ran out of the appropriate timeline, and 5 are open because they still have a more timeline before they have to go talk to the judge.
Can you tell me what category the 3 uncompleted ones are?
I believe all of them at this time are property maintenance violations, if I can recall correctly. And that can range. We had one where they had a significant hole in their roof. And so by the property maintenance code, you're required to seal the roof.
Hang on just a second now. Y'all coming back in when we get to the action item part, or y'all bailing out because you think that's all over and done?
Yes.
Because all that was a public hearing, and we're gonna take action on it here. All right.
So one of them was a property maintenance code violation. I'll give the example. So in the property maintenance code, when someone has a hole in their roof that admits rain or any type of water, they're required to repair it. That was one of our violations. Instead of listing it out, because that's just such a unique violation, we listed under other for easier readability of the report. And so if you go to that third page, you've asked us to keep the running total of what code enforcement has been doing since 2021, which those who are new, 2021 was when code enforcement was asked to start proactive code enforcement instead of reactive. And so 1,158 cases have been completed, 12 are still in court, and 5 are currently open, which bring us as 99% of our cases have been completed since 2021.
Now that looks impressive. That's good. Good job. But yeah.
With that, I'll field any other questions.
All right. We'll close out A and move to B. From B to C. Receive the monthly Development Services Department report.
So in this month of December, we issued a total of 7 building permits, 1 demolition permit, 2 electrical, 1 HVAC, and 6 plumbing permits. Now the important number in those building permits is 2 of those were new homes. Both were in the Cornerstone subdivision this month. Their approximate value of $242,608 added to the community and new housing.
Say that again.
$242,608 in estimate cost for that housing. And then on top of that, staff held 1 development meeting for the zoning on Houston Street to discuss that item.
Let me ask a dumb question. We base that on the house that you're inspecting, or does that include the land and the house?
So that is the home itself. So the builder will provide the city with the estimate of the home that is going to go on that lot.
Okay. That seemed low, that's why I asked.
Well, it's 2 houses, and yeah, about 125, 130. They were their 2 smaller products that they were approved on these 2 building permits. So they have master plans, as you know, and they'll have smaller units and it'll gradually get bigger. The 2 that were approved were pretty small units this time.
Any other questions regarding this report? Thank you, sir. Consider taking any necessary action on a recommendation to the city council regarding a rezone request for property located at 815 Houston, property ID 27449, to change the zoning classification from A, agricultural, to manufactured home subdivision.
So I am going to turn the floor over. I will handle the rest of it. But this is the gentleman we met with that I was discussing in the pre-development meeting. He is the applicant, so if you have any questions of what they're looking to do, he'll be free to answer them.
Hi, my name's Cole Cordy. I don't think we have any printouts for you guys, but these lots are located at Houston Street, sort of off the north end as you keep going past the last paved area. They've been in the family for many generations, and essentially what we have, I have a client that is trying to use part of that land that's been in her family for forever. So if y'all have any questions as far as what we're doing there, you know, the type of manufactured home, anything like that, I'm I'm here to answer.
So, you're just the developer, you're gonna buy these homes and move them in, or?
No. The Duker family is here, and they're the owners of the property, and I'm the retailer that is selling them the home and helping them with the development of the utilities and everything like that. They're at their property, and obviously with the rezone and platting.
Where are you based out of?
I'm in Taylor, right next to the Kubota dealership off of Highway 79.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pretty fresh, but.
Can you give me a little idea of how people have to buy the property, and then they rent the mobile home? How does that work?
So this property is privately owned by this family,
Okay.
and it's owned through an heirship affidavit by a few of the heirs. And Sonia and her husband are wanting to buy the home from me to put it there onto that property.
So they're basically going to be leasing their home to people.
No. They're going to be living there. It's going to be primary residence. They're wanting to use this land that otherwise is just going to keep sitting there like it has been. I mean, I've got a kind of a preliminary plat here, but there's tons of undeveloped streets up there. I mean, this is agricultural, so it hasn't been developed, but they are wanting to use this land because it's otherwise just going to keep sitting there, and it's been in their family for forever. So they're wanting to live there primarily.
And these houses meet the requirements of manufactured homes?
Yeah, it's just one house. It's just one house for one family going on a piece of property that their family has owned for forever. And yes, it's HUD labeled manufactured home. And it's this specific home that they're getting is about as close to modular as you can get without having that sticker of the modular house.
There's
too.
Probably 3 of my commission right now that we went through this about 5 years ago, learning about manufactured homes. And so Joan and I, the old troopers up here, we went through this, and that's why I'm asking you that specific question, because there's a difference between a manufactured home and what we call a mobile home.
Yeah, no, this is brand new, 2024, metal roof, double pane window. This is, very modern HUD labeled manufactured home.
And you talked with Ben?
Yes, sir. We had a meeting a few weeks ago, kind of preliminary.
Okay. So, there's one or multiple?
There's just going to be one.
Property ad.
There's only going to be one.
So it's for them?
It's for them. Primary residence. They're wanting to make use of this family land that's been in their family for generations that nobody has built anything on for years and years. And this is them wanting to kind of set their roots back here in Rockdale.
When I first read it, I thought they were gonna be multiple.
I see subdivision.
Well, that's where I was going with Ben, because we're subdividing this out of.
Yeah, let me explain.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions regarding what he's gonna do?
So, what is the house on a foundation?
It'll be on a permanent. It'll have concrete. It won't be like a full slab. Essentially, they're going to do runners, but it's. I'm sorry.
Will it be like a curb,
Yeah.
like beams, or what is it? I mean,
It'll be so. Imagine strips of concrete with backfilled road base to make it nice and flat, and then they're going to be sitting on cinder block piers.
and is it tied down?
Yes, absolutely. State comes out and does the TDHCA has their own branch for manufactured housing that come out and inspect every single set done in Texas. So there's specs and engineered foundation installation, stuff like that for all of it.
So how long has the family owned the property? You say forever, but
1945.
1945.
Easy on that forever and 45.
Sorry.
Was that before the plat was done?
Hank, that'll be Ben. Yeah, your property. Go ahead. You can step to the podium, please. Tell us who you are.
My name is Moses. Last name is generally pronounced Mata. There used to be a home on there. My father-in-law was named Alvarado, and I married one of his daughters in 1962, and my children grew up around Rockdale. I worked for Alcoa for a while. But they used to own a home there, and they lived on it forever until they passed away. Both of them did. And then one of their sons, Salvador Alvarado, moved into that place and lived in it for a while. He became an alcoholic, and he let the place deteriorate, and the house was starting to fall like some of those old homes in East Rockdale over there, the East End, I think it's called. And so, in his down days, the house was about to fall down on him, like some of these other homes you see around Rockdale. So he decided to tear it down. So after that happened by him, then the land went into like being a pasture land. And so now my daughter, which is their grandfather's place, is wanting to do something with that land because it's been vacant since 1980 something, maybe 90. But then because there's no home on it no more, it was declassified, and that street that they used to use to get to the home and the land was always an easement from the end of Houston Street to their house. Of course, they didn't know it, and we didn't know it, but we found out that was a city of Rockdale's easement. And we thought it was Houston Street, that dead end over there. And Montelongo's pasture, that's now Montelongo, used to not be his, but anyway. So my daughter and all the kids have wanted to put stuff on there, but then it's classified as pasture land or agriculture. So now they're trying to get it back where their grandpa had it.
What's the size of the property?
How big of a lot is it?
About an acre. 1 acre. It's almost an acre, like 7/8 of an acre.
And I'm assuming the adjacent properties is all agriculture as well?
It is. Well, the north and the east of it.
Southeast of that property, though, those blocks where Houston Street is, all of that is already zoned manufactured as well, too, though.
It's owned what?
M1, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, gentlemen, that's right behind you, right? Right over there?
Thank you, Mr. Mott.
Yes, yes, sir.
Hi, Dan.
Hey, so if you, on the memo, to speak what they were speaking to, the zoning piece of this is easy. But the problem is there's some city requirements that have to be met. We met with Mr. Corti and discussed them, and they're going to be very expensive items. The first is the easement that was referred to is actually an unimproved right-of-way. It's actually Houston Street that dead ends. And so city code requires if you're going to develop any property, any new property, that you have to improve the right-of-way that gets you there to and through the property, which means minimum asphalt. So they're going to have an expensive street to improve to get there. Now, if they do that, then the second...
Right there, how far are we talking?
I didn't measure it. I thought it might be 100 feet or so. I did not measure it. The second portion of this is before platting standards existed, there was someone that platted this property, and what they did is they put a lot of unimproved streets in there, and then they made very tiny lots, and they sold them. They didn't put any of that infrastructure in, so it's all undeveloped out there. If you went out there and looked at it, it looks like it's just one big vacant pasture, but it's actually a lot of lots within there and unimproved streets. So what they'd have to do is come in with the plat. They would have to have the city council abandon those unimproved portions of right-of-way, then purchase those unimproved portions of right-of-way and replat it. If they were to do that and improve the street, then they could get the zone change and they can put the mobile home on there. So staff recommended to not approve it just because the sheer cost of that is very expensive.
When was all that planning done?
My guess it would be the early 20s is what I've found in a lot of other areas in town that have plats similar to this. It was before platting standards occurred, which I believe was the mid-1900s.
So since it's already platted right now, if it was approved, you'd end up with a bunch of small lots that are platted manufactured home,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's all those lots.
Help a slow thinker here.
Uh-huh.
We didn't zone agricultural, we inherited agricultural.
Well, I'd have to go look at the
I'm
original
seeing
zone.
two different things here and I'm confused.
Well, the original zoning of it, I can't answer that. What I can tell you is there's a citywide zone change in 2005 that the city zoned that agriculture, all of those lots. There's a lot of lots within that. It's not just their lots that are affected. There's other lots that are affected within that plat, that subdivision, that are all agriculture that have unimproved right-of-ways that run through them, unimproved alleys that run through them. And so, yes,
How much land total is in that?
I'd have to look. I was not prepared to answer that question. I apologize.
And if it was platted in the 20s, there probably wasn't any zoning established when it was originally platted.
That's right.
Platting, or zoning really didn't come into play until the 60s or
Yeah.
70s. I'm not sure when the city of Rockdale adopted their first zoning
But we're bound
by current zoning.
by current zoning, but we have to also adhere to the prior, before the agricultural zoning. We have to,
No.
give me my options right here, chief.
So your options are to rezone it to the requested M1. You can leave it as is, as agriculture. What you're thinking of is modular homes by the state are required to go where single-family houses are allowed to be built.
Right.
That's where your train of thought is.
Yeah.
There is a discussion that you're required to allow a certain percentage of manufactured homes within the city limits. I've looked that up. I have not found anything that has said that. Some cities adopt that. We're not one of those cities. What I will say is there is manufactured next to this property, and if the improvement of the right-of-way wasn't involved and the plating portion wasn't involved, this would be a simple zone change approval. But since the sure cost of all of this to place this manufactured home is going to be burdensome on that family, city staff recommended.
Have you discussed it with the Matas?
We discussed it with Mr. Corti when he came in for the meeting.
So I have a crazy question. So, when they purchased this property, the right-of-way was not, that easement was not in effect, right?
That right-of-way has always been unimproved. It was platted in the 20s or early 1900s, and it was platted. And so before zoning guidelines happened, it was used as a home, is what I've been told. They've lost that use because it's been vacant for so long. So now they have to come up to current standards, which current standards means you improve right-of-way, and your lot fronts a right-of-way, an improved right-of-way, which is where we get into this. It's expensive.
So they could actually build on one of these platted lots.
It's not zoned for them to build on it. And if they were to build on it, that's where the improved right-of-way.
So it's zoned
To receive a building permit, you have to have an appropriately platted plat that would meet building setbacks, meet all zoning code and building code, which means you have to have an improved right-of-way that fronts your lot.
Hang on just a second. Give me a cost estimate of 100 foot of the street.
That's more than that.
Yeah, I know, but
I'm not sure.
it's $50 a foot or $100 a foot,
10 to 20,000, I'm sure.
Well, you can.
10 to 20,000, rough estimate.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, y'all sure you wanna build on that?
Well, in Houston Street, dead ends, I mean, into the, like you said, the Montelongo, but then you have to go back due west to get to their property. There's a property in between Houston Street from the flat, and I'm looking at on the,
Do you have that up there, Shannon?
can you pull up the appraisal district flats?
So one of the things we talked about, Jason, Mr. Corsi talked about in the meeting, is potentially doing a permanent access easement. If that's a possibility, we'd have to see how the plat came out from the unimproved. It's gonna be a mess to fix and expensive, and that's why staff voted that it would be better to maybe find a different lot around that area or in another area that allows those type of homes.
Where do utilities end?
They come all the way up to their lot. So they've got, if you look at that little printout that I gave you, right next to that little block A, you'll see the little WM for water meter, and then that little hexagon right there for the septic clean out. So they've got utilities up to the lot. And essentially the idea is to have the pavement come all the way up to the end of the kind of where that triangle is up above that block A. So we're not going around that corner onto Mathis Street or anything like that.
Say that again?
We're coming up Houston Street, essentially up to the end of where the northern boundary of their lot is.
They only require to bring it to their property. So they would improve Houston to and through the property to their most northern edge of their property is where the pavement would end.
So Houston turns into Isaac?
So you're looking at it as what's there currently, but Houston actually extends farther north. And it looks like it's just a grass field, but that's actually Houston right away.
Past Isaac?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let me zoom in, because looking at the appraisal district, there's a lot in between Houston Street 27449, which is their property. There's actually a lot in between there.
Can I see your survey?
Yeah.
Just type in 27449, pop up in the search bar.
So this is your lot, these two lots?
Mm-hmm. And well, technically this one back here too.
So all three of these lots?
Yeah.
So looking at this plat, Jason, that's just an unimproved portion of Boswell Street. And so that's what would be the portion that had to be abandoned and then purchased by the property owners combined within their plat. And then it would officially front Houston Street at that point.
That's what the city owns.
That is a city unimproved street. That's right. It was plotted that way.
Okay. Sum up staff's recommendation, please.
So staff's recommendation is to deny it because of the cost. It's not the zoning issue, because by our adopted comp plan, it's a core neighborhood, which these type of homes can go within a core neighborhood. And there is manufactured around that area, so it would fit that land use surrounding it. But the sheer cost of improving Houston Street, going through a platting action, buying unimproved right-of-way to then plat again, is going to be an expensive proposition. I don't have an estimate of that cost, but it's going to be far more expensive than buying the manufactured house and putting it on the lot.
And this was discussed with the parties that submitted the request.
This was discussed with Mr. Corti when we met. That's correct.
You got 20,000, 30,000 extra in the budget to.
Well, that's a conversation we gotta have with them still, too. I mean, it's a conversation we still need to have with them. I mean, this is a property that they're like I said, has been in their family for a long time, and it's kind of.
Make a suggestion to table.
This is a public hearing.
This is also.
Action.
And it's kind of our view too that it would be cheaper to do this development also than having to go and buy them a whole new lot.
Understood.
As well. Plus, it's in our view too. It's adding value to that area as well. I mean, this is a $200,000 house with improvements, ranging anywhere from 30 to 50,000.
Ben, do we have any kind of idea what kind of costs we're looking at?
It's been a long time since I've seen numbers for street repairs. I'd have to get with the public works director, but it's
Yoakley Street, they were quoting,
well,
that was just a repave.
and that's this is an item. This is an ordinance item.
Yeah.
So you guys are a recommendation body to the city council. So what you can do is make a recommendation, and then Mr. Corti and the family can work on that quote of what that would take and we will work with them through that. So that way they'll have a number to decide if this is worth moving forward or not. And that
Clarifying, we can send this to city council with notations.
there's a concern of the cost. I mean, you can recommend approval, recommend denying. That's your choice. I would say that would be the best path forward. So that way they can work out if this is something that makes sense for them economically.
But utilities are there or aren't there?
They should be there. We will verify.
I mean, cause that, to me, that's.
Yeah, he's got a dotted line in there up to the corner.
Well, if there was a house there previously, could have been septic.
The dot in the middle, that's the septic clean out.
So there was a house there?
And then there's a water meter, that W is the water meter.
For a long time.
The water's still
This-
connected,
this
we're
is
still
Houston
paying on
Street.
water.
So if you're looking at it
So-
right now.
The meter's still there?
Yeah. So Houston Street, this is still technically Houston Street, it's just undeveloped.
So I guess, what is this?
That's them right there. Yeah, that's this block.
So they own both of these lots?
This is all technically one, or these are a few lots. These are two lots, lots 7 and lot 6.
Thank you, Shanna, for being on the ball.
Yeah, it was silly.
And you knew where to go?
But essentially,
Nice.
those streets never got developed. Those are paper streets, and that's what's cutting up the.
Hey, so is this mic off and this is the one that's
Are there any
But this one's
other
on.
questions regarding this item?
So, water runs all the way to the property, the city water?
Yes, sir.
We are currently 2% for water.
So you have a meter
We
there?
have water, yeah.
Sewage, electricity.
They should have water. Did you ever guys have sewer with the city? Okay.
No, never had sewer there.
So that's gonna be one.
No, I take that back. Right at the end of, my brother-in-law's life, they did put in a septic, commode, restaurant.
Okay.
Before it was just outhouses,
Okay.
but yeah, they finally did. So there is a sewer tap there,
There is a sewer
right
tap.
by that light pole.
Sewer, not septic.
Sewer tap, city sewer tap.
So when was the house there?
It was there from 1946 to like 1990.
Wait,
Got a comment from the floor, step to the podium, please.
So, as a realtor and a citizen of Rockdale, if there's already manufactured homes in the area and they're going to bring a brand new one, not only is it going to raise the value in the much needed east side of Rockdale, it is going to also help with the housing authority. And if they have the money for this new house, then what does it matter what it's going to cost to fix this road? It doesn't seem to me personally, and as a realtor, it's none of the city's business if they have the money to fix the road or not. And why isn't the city going to do part of it? There's already plumbing, they get a septic or do whatever the city says. They're still paying their water bill. And again, it's going to raise the value of that's much needed on the east side of Rockdale. So as a citizen, as a realtor, I ask and I beg you to seriously consider this and press the city council to approve it for this family that has been in Rockdale for how long? It needs to be done.
Comments acknowledged, and we are seriously considering this.
yeah, we need to know what, I mean, like, legit questions.
Exactly.
Is it water?
And who owns the lots? Who owns the adjacent lots? I mean,
Actually, or something like that, that's what I was looking up.
can they buy them?
All the
Can
lots
they?
around was the same owner, actually, Kenneth, actually.
Yeah, I think we're trying to work around.
And I think you are too.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to be shot down.
It's,
I would hate to see it
my
just
trail
shot down.
section on the line when I go
that's-
tell the city
that would
and
make
just
sense.
put in $30,000 worth of street. they grill me when I tell them things like that. So, I'm trying to get as much input as I can, y'all. I'm sorry, we're just being real anal about this, cause this is kinda new territory on us right here again. 25 starts off with a real kick. We're running out of time to get down our agenda though. Ben, you had a comment, closing argument.
No, I don't have any arguments towards it. Like I said, if this road was improved, this is a simple item. There's just a lot of cost that's gonna be involved. If they're willing to move forward with that, then that's perfectly fine. It's just a staff recommendation. It just seemed to be expensive. We weren't sure if the owners were aware of it, and so we just recommend that it wouldn't. The comp plan says it can be rezoned that way. Staff doesn't have any issue with it being rezoned that way, just because, as Ms. Corning said, the surrounding area is M1 zoning. It would fit in with its land use surrounding. It's just going to be expensive.
So this is a road already that's used, you drive on it, whatever. So it's a city street, is the city gonna put money towards improving or paving this?
It's an unimproved street. It's a platted street, but it's not improved. There's no street there. There's some driveway that had been extended by the previous by the property
But it's
owner.
platted as a city street.
But it's platted, there's a lot of streets that are platted that are not developed. Especially if you go back to.
The city cannot develop a street in an agricultural, if it was zoned residential, they might have a.
No, I mean, either way, if it's an undeveloped, even if it's platted, it would be up to the developer to construct the street.
So what was the situation of the street when there was a house there?
It was platted there, but some kind of driveway had been installed there, probably by the property owner.
Never been an improved road.
Well, and the other thing you have to remember, this is a home that was there in the 90s. Zoning codes have changed since then. And so, you may have developed to a different standard that did not require improvement of streets. Now there is a requirement that the street must be improved, which is the costly factor behind this.
I'm not comfortable making a budget decision for the owners. They can afford to.
Well, go ahead, let's.
To me, I mean, we're basically gonna prove, hey, yes, this is, you can zone it as residential. Now it's up to you whether or not you can get the roadway.
Yes.
to par.
You can make that recommendation. You can make that recommendation to approve it as M1, and then they would know their standards. And so it can be M1, and they may not, it may be too costly, they just don't develop it, and they have M1 lots now that doesn't have a mobile home on it. Or they can improve what needs to be improved, and when it gets approved by city council, if so, then they can develop when they reach that point that they have extended Houston and they've replatted, and so on and so forth.
How many lots are there?
There's 3 lots that they own.
And that are being rezoned?
Mm-hmm.
Ben, I'm a hesitant right now because I sat through the Oakley Street situation. And I know what the residents on the east side were saying about roadways, improvements, and different things. And just to say we're gonna spend X dollars to help one person put a roadway in, I know, I already know there's gonna be pushback.
I don't think we're saying.
But
that,
it's not up to us. Our option would be, yeah, we can go ahead and okay this today with a notation that this council's aware that there's cost involvement.
Not to the city, yeah.
It's not to the city. I just want to be clear, the reason that staff has said no is because we want everyone to be aware how expensive it is. Now, we can approve yes, and then they can determine what that cost is going to be and improve it. I just didn't want to catch the homeowner off guard by saying, here's your zoning, and then they come to me with a building permit application, and then I say, here's all these other additional costs you didn't know about. Was the intent of it.
Does it have to be, I mean, does it have to be up to par as a city street, or, I mean, is it a legit?
It would become a city street at that point. I have one more question that might throw us, I don't know, if this was approved for rezoning for M1, this whole area, and they built that road to serve those 3 lots, could they then potentially build 3 houses without any further action by the Plan Commissioner Council?
Yes, with how they're rezoning this, they're doing it by multiple lots, and so you would be rezoning multiple lots, And then if it were approved, they would essentially come back once the city abandons portions of right-of-way, if council allows that. They would purchase those, put it into a plat, and create lots. And what most likely they'll have to do is do a permanent access easement through the lot so that the other, however many lots they make within that, they all have permanent access through Houston Street.
You're talking, not using Mathis Street, you're talking about, which is at the north or up.
Mathis is also unimproved.
Yeah.
And so they're not required to improve that. It would be a cheaper alternative.
Even if they develop the other two lot, or
It would be wiser and more cost-effective, since the whole family owns those 3 lots, to put a permanent access easement within there. So that way they're not improving 2 streets.
like we did at Oak Park 1, that type.
Mm-hmm. Just like how they did their permanent access easement. So that way they would at least have one of the lots fronting an improved street, and then everybody else can have a permanent access easement, typically 10 to 15 foot, where they have permanent access through everybody's property to Houston Street.
So M1's gonna fit the area anyway,
That's right.
so it doesn't,
This is not a case of spot zoning. The zoning around that area reflects their zoning request.
I mean, I think if everybody knows what you're getting into, you know, I mean, it matches the terrain already. I agree with you though, I mean, I don't want you guys to come up and go, okay, it's approved, let's go today. You know, I think as long as everybody knows the situation, then you have a choice of what you want to do with it.
Exactly.
May I approach the podium?
Yes, sir.
Again, my name is Moses Mata. I'm old school. I was born in 1941, to give you an idea how old school I am. But here's the way I view things. The city of Rockdale can do whatever they want, right? Basically, within the law. I understand that. That street that is actually a easement has been used since the 40s. And the city of Rockdale, when they used to grade those streets, they'd grade that easement that we thought was all part of Houston Street. They'd grade that road like it was a street. And we used it to go in and out to that property forever. Of course, there used to be a sandy road. I don't know what happened to the sand, but there's no more sand there. But anyway, my input about this, since we've been using that easement as an avenue to the property, leave it that way. Make it easy on you, make it easy on my daughter is trying to put a house on there. All you gotta do is grade it every once in a while. It dead ends against another pasture that Mr. Montalongo owns. By the way, he also has a water meter by his gate into his pasture. So the water line goes right past our place to there. So again, I'm just going to say, just make it very simple. We don't need y'all to build another street. Just let us use that easement like it's been used since the 40s to get in and out of that property. And very simple.
That'll be a city council.
Yeah, I think that's a little beyond us.
Luckily, we don't have to make that decision. I will take action on action item D.
What'd you say?
I'll take it.
Oh.
Trying to move it along.
I'm going to move that we approve the request to do the zoning change.
Any notations? You
No,
just approve it.
Well,
I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
The city takes care of all of
The
that.
council, yeah, has got a,
You know, we're not gonna have anything to do with it. How they manage the road, or whether they make an exception to that or not.
I just don't think it's, I mean, our choice to tell someone they can't put a house on their land whenever, I mean.
Okay, but hang on.
Well,
You've made a motion
to refer it to city council.
to approve the rezone referred to city.
Yes.
Right. Shanna, did you get that? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Good job.
We have a motion, we have a second. Those in favor, raise your right hand. Hallelujah, pass the bucket.
Great, good job.
That doesn't mean the city won't.
I know.
Hey, we gotta
Action
appreciate
item
the
F,
small
consider to
victories.
take any necessary action on a recommendation to the city council regarding a rezone request for property located in the 900 block of San Gabriel, property ID 205308333, to change the zoning classification from C1 commercial light to R3 PUD residential multiplex planned unit development. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Chair. So as you heard, this is going to be Housing Authority's property. What they're planning on doing is building 74 units of affordable housing. And in their request, they have done a planned unit development. They've only specified a few items. Staff only had comments on 2 of them. We would recommend approval of the rezone request, subject to still requiring 2 off-street parking spaces and also requiring curb and gutter to be installed.
And again, this is under the 538 USDA, right? So, yes, yes.
So the rendering, I think looks awesome, and I'm 100% that we need housing for our elderly. I mean, one thing I fear is this becomes like Hunter's Chase. That's what it was originally intended for, and then now you have everybody and their dog living there. It's not for elderly any longer. And the rendering is awesome, but it does, I mean, curbs make a big difference in landscaping. Curbs and the landscaping, I feel like that's something that needs to stay, because if you don't have curbs, people are gonna drive up to the front porch, front door, and, you no longer have that landscape line to mow and edge to keep it clean and neat. I mean, that's my thoughts on that.
Can we,
Do we need to go to the podium to speak to you?
Yes.
Okay.
I have one question. So we talked about, so it's age-based or income-based?
age-based,
Age-based.
usually at 55 and over, and we'll keep it like that, so understand.
That was my question. How do you keep it that way?
We have to, it's the rules. I don't know what happened with the other folks down the street, but that's them. Under the USDA.
Yeah, the USDA loan is specifically for 55 and older. It can't be used for families.
55 kinda got old quick, didn't it?
Hey, we're still young.
But hang on, let's start it. Approach the podium, tell us who you are.
Go ahead.
I'm Bill Tammage. I'm the architect on the project, and and I'm working with the lender on the loan. And the loan is specifically for 55 and older. The project will not be able to use for younger folks. And as far as the curbs go, we can put in the curbs, but I would like to, the elderly only need 1 car. They don't need 2 cars. And so I'd like to keep the parking as 1 car per unit.
I understand what you just said, but let me tell you, it's like the old war adage, you can kill a soldier and he just lays there, but if you wound him, it takes 4 people to move him, and sometimes the elderly need day help or night help, or, so I would say 2 cars is not out of reach for each unit, but
Would that be
just a thought. I don't know what the codes are, I don't know what the grant specifications
Guest
are, but
parking.
I understand what you're saying. They may not even drive, and then it's just the person helping them, but anyway.
Will there be additional parking area?
Yes, there'll be additional parking, but,
But not right in front of the house?
yeah, right, not right in front of the
And
house.
again, it's nothing on you guys. We've kind of said here lately, we really like to see plots, plans, and facades, and this picture is really neat, but if you're saying, no, that's not what we're building, and we're kind of confused, but,
No, this is what we're building,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I see that in there, series of duplexes. And all the fronts were gonna be in alignment, or are they gonna be offset, or?
They're gonna be offset.
Are those the houses, set off of San Gabriel, or are those the houses on San Gabriel? Or are they the same?
They're all the same.
So San Gabriel will have the parking.
Right. That's right.
Anyway.
Mario
Okay,
Casares,
go ahead.
I was gonna say Mario Casares, to answer Jason's question, yeah, it has to be 55 and older, so we're gonna keep it like that. And again, it's affordable housing, so what we're trying to do is cut the cost. Basically, we're trying to keep our costs low. Now, if we get the loan that I talked about, the HUD loan, the age requirements will change. It's gonna be 62 and over. If we get the HUD loan. Right now, it's HUD grant. Right now, it's USDA loan that we're under.
So are you waiting for one or the other, or are you wanting to, you can get one and use the grant to pay it off, or how does that work?
If we get the USDA loan, well, we've been given preliminary approval for the USDA loan.
Okay.
We have to do what you're talking about, more detailed drawings to do it. And my understanding is we have to bring those back to y'all and to the city, the detailed drawings, and there's a second approval in this. What we can't afford, the money is really tight, so we cannot afford 2 parking spaces. I think we can afford curbs, but we can't afford the 2 parking spaces.
Now, we'll have a center, so we'll have guest parking. There will be other parking.
Right.
Where caretakers could come and park and walk over to the unit.
Right.
Or that too.
If I can ask Ben, so the city recommendation is y'all prefer 2 parking lot, and what's the other?
Well, so curbs.
Curbs?
Require curbs and parking. You know, from the city staff, with what was provided, we didn't know there's gonna be additional parking spaces. We're going off of there's 1 per unit, which would be not near enough parking.
With the community center and office space, we'll have guests, just like we have here.
Yeah.
Like
So
Cordova.
if there's additional parking, staff wouldn't necessarily see an issue with that, because then it would be more than 1. You know, they're saying there's 1 per unit, but then there's additional guest parking, so they'd be closer to that 2 range.
Is there a handicap?
There is handicap space requirements. It goes on the amount of spacing. They've recently changed their rules. I believe it's you required 1 handicap for the first 20 and then another handicap every 25 or something along those lines. So it depends how many parking spaces they put out there as the requirement. They could put more than that if they'd require. USDA may require something additional than that.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with sorry guys, I'm not familiar with the grants and loans and all that, so I don't know what their requirements.
The USDA will require 10% of the parking spaces to be handicap.
I can live with that. Yeah. 2?
I know the only thing with parking is, I came from the home health environment, and we always had cars and therapists and nurses that needed somewhere
Right.
to park,
We're-
especially in the senior community.
We're gonna have places for them to park.
Could we bump it up to 1.5?
Uh,
I mean, where,
Like half and half
As an
well,
average.
for the unit.
just so you have additional parking
How-
then. I mean, I understand you have some parking, some additional parking, but, I mean,
How about
look
one?
at it, 1 per household or whatever, is still not very much considering, I mean, so if the additional parking is way over here, they're gonna have to walk, you know, everyone's gonna have to walk, you know,
Well-
400 yards or whatever.
How about 1 1/4?
And Jason, I know what you're saying as far as Hunter's Chase is concerned. Apparently, I've done my homework, and they did have to start accepting families when COVID hit. So I do have a couple of those families that I helped through those years. And now, this past year, they went back to elderly disabled. So now, that's why some of the families are looking for rental houses now, because they are going back to that.
Because I know some of the elderly people that actually originally, you know, lived there, moved there, and they started having issues because there was
Yes,
kids
I heard,
and
yes,
everything else.
drugs, everything else, yes.
So,
Yeah.
so they're only bound by those guidelines until the grant or loan is paid off?
Well, I'm not sure. The loan is for 40 years, so it's gonna be quite some time.
Yeah, I'm out here.
Maybe what they'll do, I mean, I know this happens.
Yes, sir.
You got a grandchild or a son or daughter that all of a sudden wants to come stay a few days.
Mhm.
and
They have,
all of a sudden
rules
they're
and-
living there and.
They can, so they have 15 days to visit, where they have to sign them in.
That's Cordova,
Well, Cordova, but yeah, I don't know what I don't know if we're gonna
Similar.
follow the same guidelines.
It'll be similar.
Cause it's still
Cordova's-
gonna be HUD, so I still have to follow those guidelines. And then if they say grandma gets grandson, they have to be added on the lease, and then.
They can be added on the lease.
They can be, yes.
It's a little, I mean,
Mhm.
it's a little concerning, but.
Will you have a
Didn't we
max
say-
capacity per house? You know what I mean? Since it's only a one bedroom?
Yeah, it will be only
Bill,
one
didn't we say one and only weekend visits? Yeah, what were the, we talked about this.
Really,
I
this
don't
is
remember.
something that we can just send as a note to city council for them to hash out. It's not something we really need to get involved with, really. It's good information, don't get me wrong, but we don't really need to bog down. We just say, hey, we have concerns with occupancy, parking places. I'm just saying.
Yeah, understand.
Let them have, I love it
Yeah,
when
'cause
they
it
get
can
to
get
hash stuff
technical.
out. So
If it has to
really,
be.
what's the money value, added to this to this city? What is this project looking like, cost?
5.5, 5.7?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5.7 million.
Is it nonprofit? So it wouldn't pay ad valorem?
It's
Bill?
nonprofit, yeah.
No, you would not pay, would you pay property taxes?
I don't know, how does
I don't
USDA?
know, I don't think so.
I don't think, yeah, it would not.
This will be our first time doing USDA, we're in HUD right now, but this is,
It would not generate property, any ad valorem taxes.
No ad valorem taxes, and then, what do y'all do with construction companies?
we want to stay
Try
local.
Use local?
We'll try to, with what
I'm
we,
steering you here.
yes, oh yes,
Uh-huh.
that's number one,
Okay.
local, stay local.
Good answer there.
Now, if we do get the other grant, it'll go from 5 million to 15 million.
Yeah, I thought you had said
Yeah.
that.
Okay, doubles in size.
Yeah,
What does one of these places rent for? I'm just curious.
They rent for about $800 a month. But it's income adjusted, so if they are low income,
Okay.
that's how much the government will, bump up their payment.
Okay.
If they can only afford 200, they pay 200 and the government pays 600.
Okay.
it's the basic 30%. Yeah, we have people that's, it's 800 right now, and they're paying, some are paying 250,
Okay.
300.
Again, that's not part of our I was just, that's.
Okay, good question, good question. So where are we at now, Ben, with the cities?
So where we're at now is we have to come up with a rezoning request. And I'll entertain, y'all can sit down. I think that we got enough. Unless Ben's got something to lay on me.
No, this is your discretion how you're going to move this forward to city council. Staff recommended approval subject to 2 parking spaces and having them install curb and gutter. You can amend those comments as you wish and make that recommendation.
I would also point out, I have submitted a grant to, the state for funding to improve St. Gabriel Street all the way from that end down to Thrall, I think it is. So that would actually help potentially with the curb and those costs in.
Good information there, sir.
So I don't know if we're gonna be successful or not, but.
Try harder.
It's now in the state's hands.
All right, I'll entertain. Well, I'll make a motion that we send our recommendation of approval for rezoning, but also we would like, curbs added to the consideration, and we're concerned about parking. I mean, I'm worried about parking too.
Parking, curbs, occupancy.
Occupancy is really answered by the building code. You have a certain amount of square footage per one person, and then it goes up per 2 and 3. I can give you those numbers at the next meeting if you want to see them, because that's how we handled some other code violations issues with motels in this town.
Okay, hang on. Can you read back what she just said?
send the council the recommendation of approving with adding curbs and concerns of parking.
That's your, curbs and gutter or just curbs?
Oh, I just wrote down curbs.
Yeah, you gotta have drainage.
Gotta have drainage.
Curbs with drainage.
One more time.
Can you add that, please?
Joan has made a motion. Could you read it back to me?
Approval with curbs and gutter and concerns with parking.
Adequate amount of parking. And state where the parking is located.
Close enough for you? All right, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor of the motion with notations, raise your right hand. Motion made, seconded, and carries. G, consider and take any necessary action on a short form subdivision submitted by Jose Cardenas for a property located at.
Doug, you missed F. They have two sections, so you did the first one. So there's a second one.
All right,
Probably no more discussion necessary.
that's what I was hoping.
Can we move that we accept with the same conditions for that one?
Did I hear a motion
Uh,
from you?
But before the motion, I do have one thing that I do have to state by state law. We received more than 25% protest on this section. So just FYI, it takes 3/4 approval from yourself and the city council to approve that section.
Ben, hang on a second now, we're still talking about F on this.
We're-
But there's no one here.
By councilman.
Oh, if
Council's gonna have to approve this section by a 3/4 majority because 25% of the land area has protested against this zoning by turning in zoning letters.
And nobody was here today to discuss it with us?
That's my question, Ben, how come we
don't read those?
notice people?
Yeah. Well, I would've thought they would've said something to us.
Okay, so there's a couple questions. So notices were sent by state law that the zoning was happening. City staff received comments that they were not for the zoning. I missed the planning commission's question. There's a question asked.
We don't go over those in open meeting?
So they had it in writing. It's a public record if you'd like to see it.
Okay.
I would like to see
Include
it.
those in the council packet.
Mm-hmm. So they,
They are.
Hang on just a second, this is.
The letters
to, it,
mail out.
the mail outs in there, the letters were received a couple days ago, so they're not in your packet because the packet was already out.
We don't know
How many total
what's
letters we
25%
received?
or anything like that. We just know.
We received 3 letters now.
And all three of them were in opposition?
Mm-hmm.
So three letters and all three in opposition.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 18.
But
looks like.
actually.
Well,
I have a
and
question. Actually, how many people do you have here that are in favor of?
well, there's a lot that were in favor, but I want to remind that there's a difference in state law. So people are required to be notified in 200 foot according to state law. That is where your potential protest happens. Everyone that is for within that 200 feet, don't go against it. Everyone that's for or against outside of that 200 feet is just letting you know how they feel. It does not come down to a number that is for potential protest. So there were a lot in favor here today, but I don't believe any of them received letters because they're not within the 200 feet of that property. And I've also heard a lot of protests outside the 200 foot.
So hang on, Lee, just a second. Let's do this cleanly now. Action item F, consider and take any necessary action on a recommendation to the city council regarding a rezone request for property located in a 900 block. Am I right? Or did I miss 915 was?
No, you did. You already did the first one, so now we're in the 900 block. You're right.
So
Does
900
the second
block.
one have to be different?
The second one has to be different because it's a different parcel of land that's zoned differently. And so it cannot be the same rezone request.
Am I missing 915 in this, in here? Or?
So, Ben, what you're saying is for 915, there was not 25%.
That's right.
But for
That threshold
900
did not.
block, there was.
There was.
That's mystery. Well,
Because there are a few more people that are notified because again, it's a 200-foot boundary. So as you move more towards the east, more property owners toward the east are going to get that notice.
Okay, so state that again. On this particular one, there was 25%.
That's right.
negative?
That threshold was received, and so there is enough people that have protested that it takes 3/4 majority by the city council to approve it. It doesn't affect you, but I just want that to be on record so that you are aware that there's been that threshold that's been reached.
Okay, comment?
My name is Lee Rogers again, and I just thought of something, and this, I may be out of order, I don't know. But this is regarding the roads for San Gabriel and whatever the cross street is going to be out of there, that this seems, that part of San Gabriel is not an improved road or anything. So who's,
Do you have the overlay?
it's kind of like the other property, I'm just wondering who's responsible for that.
So the same thing, they'll be responsible for it.
The
Developer is responsible for the improvement of
Okay.
progress.
Okay.
It's the same answer across the board unless the city council says otherwise.
So,
We met, we discussed it. That's why the curbing came into question, that they may not be able to afford to do curbing.
Well, clear as mud now, boys.
so other than that, I have no,
Yeah.
no objection.
Yeah, but for the record, it is a building code adopted by the city council that roads have to be improved. And so any developer that comes to city staff, they get the same answer. And unless they receive a variance from council or an alteration to the code from council, then they're bound by the code that the council has adopted.
Restate staff recommendation.
So staff recommendation is the same on this one as the other, is to approve it. We require 2 parking spaces. I believe y'all discussed maybe lowering that. Staff wasn't aware that there would be additional parking outside of these units. And so if there is, staff is comfortable with lowering that a little bit. And then requiring curb and gutter installation for drainage.
Regarding our last motion made on 915 versus this 900, would that make you happy as staff?
The way she stated it was perfect.
Yep.
Way he stated it?
Somebody got a good stroke. Okay. I'll take action on action item F. I know you're still in heaven hearing all that good positive thought he just told you.
I move that we approve the zoning request with the same concerns that the lack of speak on 915 to include the 900.
I'll second.
I'm waiting on Shannon to she'll give me a nod here in a minute. Okay, so motion made and motion seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion made, motion seconded, and passed on as approved to council with notations. Hello, all right, here we go. Conduct and take any necessary action on a short form subdivision submitted by Jose Cardenas for property located at 214 East First Street, Rockdale, Milam County, Texas, into lot 15A. A denoting that it's no. It's a first, it should be G, 6G. Action item 6G. Hi, Ben.
Hey, Chair. So we received this plat, and the backstory on this is the homeowner wanted to do an addition on their house, and as you can see, they have 2 lots currently that the home sits pretty much right in the middle of it. And so we told them they'd have to replat their property so that way they'd meet building setbacks and be to current code before a building permit's issued. They've come in with the plat now. We had some corrections on the plat. The first thing is they put the word preliminary on there, which is not needed, so we've asked them to remove that. They've also specified that the building does not meet current building setbacks. You'll see it on that far right corner. And so we've asked them to add that as a variance request on the plat, which means this plat does have to go to city council because there's going to be a variance with it. The other 2 items is they put that the right-of-way is unnamed, which I was unsure why they did that because it should be Pecan. That is just another portion of the street that's just not improved there. And then the final is they have a minor spelling issue in the mayor's signature block that we asked them to correct.
Who actually did the platting?
Should be on the plat. It was Como Hill Surveying. First plat that I've received from them
Yeah,
that I can recall.
Okay, I had concern there because it didn't sound standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So minor things. The biggest one is the variance not being mentioned, so that needs to be put on there, and it does mean that this does have to go to city council.
It's a simple little deal, but it's gonna take a little while to resolve, right?
It just takes an extra week because it's got to go to city council. But yes, if city council approves the variance, it's a pretty straightforward plat outside of that variance request.
I'll make a motion that we move it to council for approval with the variances as noted.
Have a motion made to approve it to council with annotations, yeah.
Thank you.
Second. We have a second. All those in favor? Motion made, seconded, and approved that we send it to council with notation. H, consider taking any necessary action on a final plat submitted by Donald and Carolyn Cooper for property located at 730 Broadnax, Rockdale, Milam County, Texas, into Block 8, Lot 1, and Block 9, Lot 1.
So staff met with the owner, Mr. Cooper, and he expressed interest in selling off a portion of the lot. And so he has essentially crafted an acre out of the current 8 acres that he owns, and he wants to sell it. And so in reading the plat, which was very difficult to read, we've had several comments. The first is there's a power line that should have an easement, so we've asked them to notate one. They also put that there's an easement B, which you can see in Block 9, Lot 1, which was just so hard to read I could not figure out what they were trying to notate there, so I've asked them to specify that. And then there's also, if you look to the west portion of the plat on Miller Street, it appears that it just shrinks from the start of their property and almost loses half of its right-of-way. And that could be right, but it just doesn't seem that it would be that way. So I've asked them to notate if that's within their property or not, and to properly address that. So that may or may not change.
Is this from survey, or is this just a plat? Or?
So this is a plat. The last comment is they've put it as a short form subdivision, but it's not. So I've told them that they've had to change their wording to a final plat, and the reason it's going to be a final plat is there's no requirements for improvements at the time of platting. They have water and sewer already, and so it can be considered a final plat because this is the first time.
It's never been platted
That's right.
We get a lot 1, not 1A.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And so those are the comments that staff has had on it. Any questions?
He's pulling up a picture. Hang on.
I was just trying to get a better visual.
And this is a tire store? Yeah, is that?
No. No, this is residential property. This is residential property.
Behind Jackson Street.
And so I'm seeing a driveway that goes services both.
Right, so that driveway they've notated on the plat most likely because it's been used that way for so many years that it may be considered an easement at that point. But that whole property is going to remain one lot and block. That's the part that the Coopers are going to continue to own. The acre to the bottom portion of that plat is the potential lot that they would sell off. And so that buyer would access off of Stokes Street.
Oh, now there's access there, right? I mean, they will build their own access there, right?
There's currently access there. It's a substandard road, but there is access there.
Don't use those terms here, please, sir.
According to zoning code, it is a substandard road. It does not meet zoning code. Broadnick Street, Stokes Street, both don't meet zoning code.
But it splits trying to see it. It actually splits the lots, Broderick Street?
Broadnook should dead end there.
Okay.
That's what the plat would show. And so the surveyor, when they did they should have done title. When they did their title, it shows that the right-of-way ends there and then their property begins. The only right-of-way that doesn't end was Miller Street. And if you can see it, it almost loses half of its right-of-way width, which just doesn't make sense. So I've asked them to notate that, of if that's actually true or not.
I'm sorry, I don't see that. Where's Miller Street?
Miller's on the far left. I've circled it in the red cloud.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So you see at the bottom there, it's pretty wide, and then it loses half of its width almost as it gets into their property, which just doesn't seem correct. It could be. It just doesn't seem correct, though.
Okay, Ben, run staff recommendations to me again. I know I've got them, but.
Okay, so staff recommends approving the plat, subject to providing an easement for the overhead power line that's notated, providing clarification on easement B, which is found in Block 9, Lot 1 due to legibility issues, clarify if Miller Street is within the property, and if so, they need to properly notate that, and then change the wording from short form subdivision to final plat, since this is the first time the property has been platted.
All right, I'll entertain a motion, y'all. That's a lot of stuff that's, again, who was the survey on the plat on this?
This one was Triad.
I'm smiling, right?
Well, I make a motion that we send this to council to approval with the considerations that Ben just noted about regarding the easement B, Miller Street questions, and changing the name from, it's not really a short form subdivision, it should be final plat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Oh, we were having technical difficulties here. Okay, so we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of sending it to approving it with notations? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a majority. All right. Action item I, consider taking any necessary action on a short form subdivision submitted by the city of Rockdale for property located at 204 Pine, Rockdale, Milam County, Texas, into Lot 1B.
So this is city-owned property, and this is the lot that we are trying to swap with Mr. Cortez. He met with city staff, and he chose this lot as the one that he would like to move to. We've done an appraisal of his lot and our lot, and the property value is almost identical. It's a little off, but it's almost identical. And so they've signed a letter that they're okay with that difference. And so we've moved forward with platting. And so this is a short form subdivision combining, it was 2 lots into 1 lot, so that way he can meet building setbacks when we're ready to build. The zoning is already residential single family. If you go out there today, this is the lot that's right next to the home program house that was just built on Pine by Mr. Mante. And so staff would recommend approval. This is a clean short form subdivision done by Triad.
Off subject here, did we inherit the Manti property or what?
The one that was built with the new home program?
No.
No. No. That is still owned by that family.
So when his house is demolished, the city will own that lot.
That's right. So that house is going to be demolished. The question is, where is the new home going to be built?
Right.
And so if we can swap, yes, the city will own that lot. If we cannot, then they'll just rebuild there.
That's a different subject than where we are here.
That's right. This is one of the documents to get us to that point to where we can hopefully swap lots. We have to have this lot ready to be able to be built upon. And right now, as it stands, it's 2 lots, which would not meet any building setbacks, so they need to be combined so that way the proposed house can be built to zoning code.
Staff recommendation.
Approval. There were no comments on this one. This was pretty clean.
I recommend we move it along to council for approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded that we send it to council as for approval. Those in favor? Motion made, seconded, and passed. Action item J, consider and take any necessary action on an ordinance amendment regarding chapter 14 zoning, section 14.02.005, subset D, accessory structures, and I have someone who wants to speak by the name of Tina.
Snetzler. Tina Snetzler. My mind's kind of going, I got to pull it together here. This is just, no, thank you. I bought a tiny little house. I've been here 8 years. It's on Green Street, right where they want to put this new project. It's 450 square foot home. It's tiny, and it's on the corner. And I've remodeled it. I do everything by the book. I called all the time. You know, I put awnings, driveways. I've always called to find out everything. And, well, it had a tiny little shed, and it got moldy. But in the meantime, I bought the property next to me, so I've enlarged my area. And I went and I purchased an outbuilding, a portable outbuilding. And then when I called Ben here, to find out, you know, how far away from the property line, he informed me that I had to have a permit, which I have no problem. But then he also informed me that if it's over 144 square feet, and mine's a 12 by 24 foot outbuilding, portable outbuilding, so it's more than that. He said that anybody you talk to is just blown away by this, but that building's roof has to match my roof on my house, on a portable building, which really doesn't make any sense because it's a portable building. I could understand it if it was one that's staying there, but this is like one that if I ever move, I'm taking it with me. So, you know, I'm not understanding the roof line has to match the roof line of my house. I mean, I'm planning on painting it the color of my house. I mean, and when I found out that I did the awnings on my house, they informed me they had to be black. So I went and I did black, and I have no problem with all that, but it's just, as far as like, it's an outbuilding, and when I bought it in Cameron, she said people buy them here in Rockdale. Every day they're delivering them here, but they're not permitting them. I made the mistake, I guess, of trying to do it the right way.
Did the right thing.
So here we stand. And
You've met a very good salesperson.
well,
Because part of what they told you was true. But yes, I understand. I heard you at city council, so
okay.
I understand where you're coming from. So, yeah. Anything else you want to?
No, that's just it. I just want to, I just want a building because, yeah.
You say the roof line, you're talking about the type of roof or the?
The style, the slope and pitch have to match.
Dutch or if it's,
It's a laundry list.
Yeah.
I'll speak.
So I'll give you a little background since you weren't even born yet. I mean, you weren't here.
I know the background. I've done my research.
We had a person that built. Okay, you know all that.
That's right.
And that led to us doing very.
I research. I'm a history major.
Lay it on me.
Is it because it's tall? Is that what it?
No.
No. So there's essentially a reactive ordinance that was done because someone put in a very large structure that did not match their house. It was essentially a big metal shed. And so council at the time decided that they were going to tighten their grip and make sure that that never happened again, which they did a great job because it's a very lengthy list. That essentially, the best way I explain it to somebody is if you have your house, it's just going to be a mini version of your house. That pitch of the roof is going to be the same, the color is going to be the same, the wall height is going to be no greater than the house, it's going to match in color, and it's going to match in architectural style. And so I've done some research, if you look in your packet, of communities that were around our size and the communities that are bigger than us that we will most likely get to in population in the upcoming years according to our comprehensive plan. And I've highlighted 2 that I could find that even regulated at all of the aesthetic.
Was it because it's bigger than the house? No. Or just the architecture?
No. And so the city of Marble Falls is one of them, and this is what they say. They say, shall be finished with the same materials or use materials that are aesthetically compatible and complementary. The other ordinance that I found was the city of Henderson, which says the exterior finish and facade of all storage-based accessory structures greater than 160 must match or closely resemble. So they're intentionally gray, which is where you want to be with this ordinance. And so I propose some changes that we'll get into. But one thing that I do want to address is building code.
Tina, you can sit down.
Oh, thank you.
Building code, when someone comes in with the main structure, you can't adopt codes to require them to build with brick and so on and so forth. It prevents you from doing that. So it's an extremely odd stance to have on something as minor as an accessory structure to try to regulate that. And so in the research, I could not find one community that was anywhere near as strict as we were. And so what I've proposed is some changes. So if you want to follow along, I have a redlined ordinance, so that way you can see what I've taken out, what I've added. Everything that I've added is in red. If you see a line through it, that means that was existing and is proposed to be removed. And then if that's too hard to read, because there is a lot of changes, there's a clean copy at the back of the proposed ordinance. So the first thing, a lot of these changes, we have a definition section in chapter 14. And so when you create an ordinance, you want to really match your definition so that way if somebody's reading it for the first time, they don't know what you mean by a single family district, they can actually find that in your definitions. So I've proposed to take out one family district because we don't have a definition on that, and I've changed it to single family district because we do. Same thing with dwelling units. You'll see that there's several redline dwelling units in here. It's the same concept. We have a definition for a dwelling unit and not for the previous item that was mentioned. Now this is where the important changes start to happen. On item number C, the new number C, exterior sides and roof must be substantially the same color or color matched with the dwelling unit. And it meets the setback requirements that the city of Rockdale has specified.
So you're saying if your house has a metal roof, your accessory building can't have a shingle roof?
It needs to match in color, not the material. So we're not getting into the I thought material was too far. I think the color is just fine because there should be no reason if you have a shingle roof and you want to do a metal roof on an accessory structure. In my opinion, it should not be something that the city regulates. The goal of the previous ordinance is something that I tried to adhere to, which your goal was to not put something that is such an eyesore on somebody's property. To do that, we went a little far, in my opinion. And so you just matching the color should be enough to where it's not that much of a problem, I would hope. And so as you continue, you'll see this is where I start to mark out all of the additional requirements of that laundry list that I was speaking of. On number 9, I made a small change. So it used to be the floor area of the accessory structure shall not exceed 50% of the floor area of the main building. Every ordinance I could find, they reference 30%, so I've changed ours to 30%. There is a caveat in there that you cannot, you can't limit them for no less than 400 square foot of that accessory structure, as long as they meet impervious coverage requirements, of course, which should be, that follows the line of all those communities I've researched, so that should not be an issue.
Say it again? Yeah.
So it used to, currently, you are allowed to not exceed 50% of the main floor area of your structure. So if you have a floor area of 1,000 square feet, we'll keep it simple. You cannot exceed a 500 square foot accessory structure. That's what that's saying. So what I've turned it to is 30, with the caveat that you at least get 400 square feet, which should be adequate for an accessory structure. In my time here, I will say the accessory structures that have been planned have not exceeded 500 square feet. I have not received one plan that has been over 500. We can amend that.
12 by 24, I think it's.
We can amend it if needed. 400's a pretty nice size unit, so I was gonna keep that in, but we can amend that if wanted. I'll continue to go down this so you can see there's some other big changes I made. Number 14 was already within your ordinance. Oh, I'm sorry, 14 is new. They say that accessory structures that are attached, so if you actually attach the unit to your house, the ordinances would say that they're regulated by the same thing your house is regulated by. So I've added that in there. And then 16, y'all have never allowed for shipping containers or storage containers. I've just moved it. I've redlined it because I moved it, but it was earlier in the ordinance. I rearranged it for some readability. And then 17 is a new one for you guys. Other communities allow for home occupations within accessory structures. And so I've proposed to allow that as well, subject to that the primary residence has to be used first before the accessory structure can be used as a home occupation. No more than one home occupation is allowed per property. The home occupation cannot be open to the public at any time. And then it's applicable to the home occupation section that says all of those things, just repeated.
But so that kind of scares me. Does it have to have running water, sewage and all that? I mean, we're just gonna let people live in outdoor buildings?
So it's not livable. It's a home occupation. So think of like a one-seat barber shop. You take clients outside of work. It's your second job. It's your business. It's a home occupation. It's not living in them.
Okay.
It's the so instead of using your primary structure as that, you can actually just use your accessory structure.
Thank you.
And then the last item is that it can't increase the traffic flow, which is found in that section that I referenced in section, or the section with that we already talked about home occupations. We can remove that if you're uncomfortable with it. When I was doing that research, about half of those communities in that allow for home occupations in their accessory structure. And as we're growing, I did not think that would be an issue, but it's open for discussion. So that's the proposed changes, is to really lessen our grip significantly, but still try to adhere to what your original goal was.
So with these changes, is her building now in code?
As long as it matches in color, it will be. If she would want to do that, if this were approved by city council, yes, she could get a building permit.
Permeability, we don't worry about.
I'm not.
On the lot, as far as pervious cover and all that kind of stuff.
So anytime somebody comes in with a permit application, staff reviews all the applicable codes. So you already specify that.
Oops, yeah.
So you're covered.
So instead of using the term occupation, do the dance with me here, home-based business.
Well, the reason I use that term is to go back to our definitions. It's important to use the definitions that you put in your zoning code, because you need to assume that somebody that has never read an ordinance before is reading your ordinance for the first time, and they read home occupation, and they should be able to go to your definition and read that. And so that's why that's in there. And that's why you see a lot of these other one-word cleanups, is just to clean up what our definition is actually defined as and what the original term was used as.
So basically, in looking at accessory buildings, the two roof styles seem to be more pitch style versus the barn or Dutch style roof. Do y'all know what you're talking about?
There's gable and hip. Those are your two basic roof types. Mm-hmm.
And that's why you'll see at those building yards, you'll see some that are just straight up, some are doing it. gives you more headroom, keeps the heat higher too, but we won't go into that.
So the only,
So we still have a really, really far-reaching comprehensive compared to the other.
currently,
around us?
currently what we have is past bleeding edge, and you never want to be on the bleeding edge. You at least want to have somebody like a City of Austin that's ahead of you, so that way, if there was something found in that ordinance, they'd find out, and then you would amend yours. But I would recommend that we bring it down to just matching in color, because that gets you a very similar goal to what was originally proposed, and it's not so burdensome when someone wants to go buy a unit.
I know, I mean, back in like 2007, my father-in-law went to purchase a Morgan building to move it in, a brand new, nice, I mean, very, very nice compared to the dilapidated 1960-something one falling down that he has in his backyard still, but it was denied. And he still has that raggedy old junky one sitting back there, which made no sense to me. I just never understood that.
Do you know why it was, do you know why it was?
Because it had to be, the face had to be bricked to match the house.
We used to have a facade and.
Yeah. Yeah, and building code no longer allows you to do that for main structures. So again, it doesn't make sense to do that to accessory structures when nobody's living in that unit.
Yeah.
And so that's why staff would recommend really repealing back our authority on this. You're still regulating it.
Yeah.
It's just not near as strict as it once was. And you fall in line with surrounding communities that are around our size and that are what we aspire to grow to according to the comp plan. So it seems the most appropriate.
Can I say something quickly about the color? Does Martin bones usually come in red or gray or something? When you order one of those, your house is blue. You have to pay to upgrade the color to blue now then?
Well,
I mean, my
Take it
house
away,
is blue,
Dan.
but my barn is red.
Well, it depends what it's what you want to see. You know, it's if you want to regulate it all. There's communities that don't regulate color at all. They don't regulate anything.
except for roof.
There's communities that don't regulate anything. They say that you can have them, and that's it.
So
You can be that. I wouldn't say we should do that, but I'm trying to adhere to what you previously wanted with just not putting something that just is so out of proportion with the main structure that it really would be deemed almost an eyesore. But to also be reasonable to someone that's buying an accessory building.
At that time, we were
With-
directed by council to nail that box pretty tight.
And I understand that, and you did a good job. But I think it's time to lessen that up.
I wasn't real happy with it myself.
And I would recommend at least doing the color. That's a very common one, and that's not burdensome. It takes time. If you purchase the wrong color and you have to go paint it, I understand that may be
Well, if
a
you
headache.
ordered it, I mean, if you actually go and order it, usually they'll make them to,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly the same color, but
And
close shade, right?
Yeah, and it's just got to be close, and that's where the gray area comes in of what you want. You want there to be at least a little wiggle room for them to be able to meet it. And it's one thing to purchase a unit that's red and your house is blue, and to repaint it, that's no big deal. It's another thing to buy a unit and then you get told that there's this list that it has to be architecturally the same. I mean, you can't change that at that point. You're just out a unit.
I mean, basically you're building a custom shop. or,
That's right.
you know,
You're building a custom. That's what our code currently requires, which is a lot for an accessory structure.
Well, I want to step out right here, and I may say it again at the council meeting. You did a lot of work here, and I appreciate what you did here. Thank you. And your recommendation on your work is?
I would recommend approving it as the changes have been made to match the definitions with the proper wording, and then to really restrain our hold on this to only require it to be matching in color, and then for them to meet their setback requirements, which is 5 foot. It's specified in another section, so you don't have to re-specify it. And then I've also added that they have to meet their impervious cover requirement, which is already in ordinance as well. So we're really taking back here than what we previously had. And then if you want to discuss the home occupations, if they should stay or be removed, I'm open for discussion. I can lean one way or the other on that. I was surprised personally of how many communities allow for that, which is why I added it.
Well, some people want
A great example is Tim Story that came in and got a variance for his structure. He's going to use that as a home occupation, essentially. He's going to record music in there. And so uses like that would make sense to allow.
Right. More and more people are working from home, so the original home may not be set up for office.
You've read the changes, you've heard staff. I'll entertain a motion on the action item.
I'll make a motion that we approve with changes as noted by staff.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I don't know, I don't understand any of it, I'm smiling, that's it.
Basically, yours should be good.
Well,
Yeah, if council,
hang on,
I'll talk to you
let
after
us
the
vote
meeting.
here, and then I'll answer your question.
Yeah.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Right hand. All right, so that's unanimous. So what'll happen now, we said, yes, let's try this. We take it Monday to the city council, go through this whole thing that we just went through right here. They will you'll go through this whole thing, and then they make the decision whether to approve it, amend it, or reject it.
Okay.
So I would, if you, don't have anything else to do Monday night.
So it's the upcoming.
Bring popcorn and get ready for lots of fun at city
No, I
council.
go to them all the time, so I'm
Yeah.
not, I'm fine. So you're passing it, so you're sending it back over there?
That's right. They're recommending approval
Okay,
of the changes.
okay. All right, thank you.
They heard you, they made a request.
Yeah.
We're working on that, and
Yeah.
that goes back to them to do something.
Thank you, appreciate it.
But there is a recommendation to do something. It doesn't just start back over.
Yeah.
Well, it could, yeah.
Shouldn't say that.
Yeah,
They can kick it back.
Okay.
You know the drill, you've been to enough meetings, you've seen how it goes, so. All right, then, that brings us to the adjournment word down there. Time now